Okay, let's unpack this. Because trying to fix modern workplace burnout with, like, new management software.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
It really is. Your dead sheet to track the termites.
That is exactly what we're doing right now in 2026.
Right. You're sitting there in this hyper-competitive landscape, just looking at some color-coded dashboard that tracks your team's productivity down to the millisecond. We are just absolutely drowning in AI-driven org charts and shiny new platforms promising to, like, streamline workflows.
And optimize synergies, right, all the buzzwords.
Yeah, exactly, all the buzzwords. But if you look around, organizations are fundamentally broken. Burnout is everywhere. The toxic power struggles are they're omnipresent.
Yeah, and the bureaucratic gridlock is impossible. So what do? We buy another app.
We buy another app. Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are welcoming you, the listener, to a completely different perspective today.
We really are. We're looking at the foundation itself.
Yeah. We're pulling entirely from this deeply fascinating article from Radio Platonic. It's published March 21st, 2026. It's called Ancestral Order Blueprint, Managed Hierarchy Without Chaos.
Such a great base.
It's incredible. So if you're prepping to lead a massive project or just trying to survive a toxic office, or honestly, if you're just insanely curious about human behavior, we're going to extract the forgotten keys to organizational stability.
Because the text poses this really startling historical mystery.
Right. How did civilizations like the Indus Valley, the Incas, the early Romans manage massive hierarchies for hundreds of years without tearing themselves apart?
And what's fascinating here is that it forces us to confront our own chronological snobbery, I guess you could call it.
Oh, I like that term, chronological snobbery.
Yeah, we assume ancient societies just brute force their way through history, right? With primitive top-down systems.
Just a guy with a stick telling people what to do.
Exactly. But they didn't. They engineered highly sophisticated systems of mutual obligation, sacred duty, and these rhythmic restructurings of power.
The Ancestral Order Blueprint.
Right. And by studying this blueprint, we discovered that the chaos you're experiencing at work, it's not a technology failure. It is a structural failure.
A structural failure.
Right.
We've totally forgotten the physics of how to build a stable human house. So let's start with dismantling this first big myth.
The myth of the great man.
Yeah, the great man. Because we're so insulated by modern corporate legal structures, we look back and assume the past was just brutal dictators.
The God King ruling entirely by fear.
Right, hoarding power at a giant palace. But the source material completely upends that, specifically looking at the Indus Valley civilization.
Right, so the archaeological evidence from the Indus Valley is the perfect starting point because of what is conspicuously absent.
What's missing?
Palaces. When they excavate these sprawling ancient cities like Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, there is a distinct lack of grand palaces for god kings.
Wait, really? No giant ego monuments at all?
None. No statues demanding worship. But simultaneously, there is massive evidence of standardized urban planning.
So they were highly organized.
Incredibly. Uniformly baked bricks across hundreds of miles, covered sewer systems, organized communal granaries.
You can't build that without a hierarchy.
Exactly. You need massive coordination. But the evidence suggests the hierarchy was entirely functional, not ego-driven.
Functional? Okay, so status was tied to what exactly?
Your contribution to the collective infrastructure. You didn't get status because your dad was king or you had the biggest sword.
Right.
You got status because you knew how to engineer the water management system or secure the granaries against pests.
So your rank was directly linked to your utility for the group's survival.
Yes. And if we break down the psychology there, between ego-driven leadership and functional leadership, chaos naturally minimizes in a functional system.
Because everyone gets why the hierarchy exists.
Exactly. The person directing construction isn't there because they think they're inherently better than everyone else.
They're there because if they mess up the pitch of the sewer system, everyone gets sick and dies.
Right. It's a tool for collective survival.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the listener today? Because if I'm looking at a modern corporate ladder, it feels like entirely based on arbitrary titles.
Oh, totally.
It's about who you know, who you schmooze at the retreat, how good your slide deck is, not who is actually securing the granary of the company.
Yeah, we've drifted so far from functional hierarchy.
So how does a listener identify if they're in an Indus Valley functional system or a toxic, ego-driven one?
Well, the diagnostic test is looking at how status is rewarded and how failure is handled. In a functional system, authority goes to people who clear roadblocks for the collective.
So a good manager's main obsession is making sure you have what you need to do your job.
Exactly. Do you have the resources, the time, the clarity? Their status comes from your team running smoothly.
And a toxic system.
You'll see resource hoarding. Authority is used to hoard information, deflect blame, and claim unearned credit.
Oh man, we all know that manager.
Right. Decisions are disconnected from the actual product. They're just optimizing for internal optics and office politics.
Just managing their own image to the VP. Yeah, if your boss spends 80% of their energy on that, you're in an ego-driven hierarchy.
And those are sociologically doomed to internal chaos.
Okay, so that transitions us perfectly. If leadership isn't about hoarding power in a palace, how is it actually practiced?
Right. How do you get thousands of people to work hard without being a tyrant?
Exactly. And this leads us from the Indus Valley over to the ancient Andes.
Yeah, the civilizations right before the Incan Empire. The source introduces this deeply profound principle called Ayni.
A-Y-N-I.
Yes. It translates to reciprocity or mutualism. But it wasn't just like a polite suggestion, it was the non-negotiable core of their blueprint.
So a leader's status wasn't about what they took.
Right. It was measured entirely by what they provided.
And the article gives specific examples, right? High-ranking officials had to physically host massive festivals.
Yeah, resource-intensive festivals. And they had to provide for the vulnerable during droughts. They even had to lead from the front in labor projects.
It was a serious, tangible obligation.
It was a sacred contract. And think about it as the ultimate check and balance. If a leader stopped providing...
If they just hoarded the resources during a famine.
Exactly. Or demanded labor without throwing the festival, they didn't just break a law, they violated the universal blueprint. They lost their mandate instantly.
So the text draws a massive distinction here for us. A modern boss just demands results.
Right.
But an ancient leader provides resources and psychological safety for the team to thrive.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Think of it like a subscription model.
Okay, yeah, I like this analogy.
Imagine if a CEO's authority was a monthly subscription that they had to actively pay for with resources and safety, rather than a lifetime appointment they just won.
That is mechanically precise. Leadership was a continuous, heavy burden. You had to constantly prove your utility.
But today, you get the C-suite title, and that necessity for reciprocity just vanishes.
Because we've abstracted it into a sterile legal contract. A modern CEO answers legally to a board and shareholders, not to the workers.
So the sacred contract of mutual reciprocity is replaced by financial extraction.
Which is exactly why psychological safety is gone from the modern workplace.
Right. When layoffs happen, but executives still get bonuses, the trust evaporates. The workforce sees the contract is broken.
And that inevitably generates massive internal tension.
Which makes sense. Even with great reciprocal leaders, hierarchy inherently creates friction.
Oh, absolutely. Taking orders all day is exhausting.
Yeah, humans don't naturally love subordinating their will. So how did the ancients deal with that natural buildup of resentment without the system collapsing?
Well, they understood that tension is an inevitable byproduct of structure. Any structure creates friction.
So they didn't just pretend it didn't exist.
No, and they didn't just tell people to, be more resilient. They engineered explicit safety valves into the blueprint.
Ritualized conflict.
Yes. The prime example the text uses is the Roman Saturnalia.
Saturnalia is just wild.
It really is.
It was a specific time of year where social roles were completely suspended, right, or even reversed.
Completely reversed. During the festival, enslaved people and the lowest subordinates were allowed to dine with their masters.
Sometimes served by them.
Yes, served by them. They could voice grievances, mock the powerful, speak freely without any fear of retribution. They essentially ruled for a day.
It's basically a controlled forest fire.
Exactly.
Instead of letting the dry brush of resentment build up until it sparks a revolution, you set a small fire once a year to burn it off safely.
It's a highly sophisticated psychological tool. It prevented the slow burn of unacknowledged resentment.
Which the source directly links to our modern crisis of quiet quitting and toxic office politics.
Yeah, when people feel commodified and unheard for years, they don't violently revolt anymore. They disengage.
They quiet quit. They just do the bare minimum.
Right. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, a hierarchy must occasionally breathe to remain stable.
Okay, but practically speaking, what is the modern equivalent of Saturnalia?
That's the problem. We don't really have one.
Right, because we can't exactly make the intern CEO for a day without the stock tanking. Our performance reviews are a failed modern attempt at this.
They are our modern attempt at a feedback loop, sure. But look at how completely backward the mechanics are.
Because Saturnalia was bottom-up release.
Exactly, the powerless critiquing the powerful. But modern performance reviews are almost entirely top-down.
It's the powerful critiquing the powerless.
Which reinforces the hierarchy instead of subverting it. Even those 360-degree reviews are sterile and mediated by HR.
Right. And HR's job is to protect the company's liability, not to give you emotional catharsis.
So the review actually adds pressure to the system.
You walk in terrified. You're defending your livelihood. There's no acknowledgement of your humanity, just a sterile metric of your productivity.
We took a safety valve and warped it into a stress test.
So the conflict just goes underground into passive-aggressive emails and high turnover.
Yeah. We're trying to manage tension with compliance instead of ritual.
Wow. Okay, so ritual venting handles the emotional tension. But how did they handle the actual mechanics of day-to-day decision-making?
Right, without a dictator just barking orders.
Yeah, because complex societies still have to decide what to do. And this brings us to the flat but deep architecture of the tribal council.
This is a crucial blueprint. Before massive empires, the primary structure was the tribal council.
And it was flat but deep. What does that mean mechanically?
It was flat because monumental decisions like going to war or moving the settlement required consensus among representatives of different clans.
So no one person making unilateral choices.
Right. But it was deep because authority wasn't just handed to anyone, it was held by the elders.
And their authority didn't come from force.
No, it emanated from accumulated wisdom and institutional memory.
Which makes sense before the internet. The elders were literally the living database. They remembered the last drought.
Exactly. And because decisions required consensus among them, the power of any single chief was heavily moderated.
The chief was more of a facilitator.
Right. Now, the text compares this directly to a modern board of directors.
Oh, that's a fascinating comparison.
But the incentives are completely different. The ancient council prioritized long-term communal health.
Like, will my grandchildren survive the winter 10 years from now?
Yes. Whereas modern boards prioritize short-term shareholder gains.
Will this bump the stock price by Q3 so we get our bonuses?
Exactly. And that shift changes the entire decision-making process. The ancient way was cautious and holistic. The modern way is frantic and short-sighted.
If you're stuck in a top-down command structure right now, you know how exhausting this is.
The anxiety of unilateral decisions from on high.
Right. Decisions that make absolutely no sense on the factory floor. The ancients knew a decision made in a vacuum is usually a bad one.
They understood the danger of the echo chamber. The council forced conflicting perspectives to be synthesized. It slowed things down, but increased the survival rate of the decision.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here. Consensus sounds great. But how do you ensure the people sitting in the council actually deserve to be there?
Right. What if the elders are just incompetent?
Yeah. If it's just based on age or bloodlines, doesn't that make the society super rigid?
We do have that misconception. But the article addresses this by pointing to the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, the ultimate disruptor.
He really was. He proved the blueprint could be incredibly adaptable when it came to merit.
Because he basically ignored noble birth, right?
Entirely. He didn't care who your grandfather was. He cared about your battlefield performance and your loyalty.
He baked meritocracy into the blueprint.
Exactly. He restructured the military into the Arban system groups of 10 men from different tribes.
So he obliterated old tribal loyalties.
And replaces them with a unit where your survival depended entirely on the competence of the guys next to you.
Because chaos erupts when incompetent people hold rank through nepotism.
Exactly. The ancients knew a hierarchy failing to promote talent is destined to collapse. High social mobility wasn't a liberal ideal, it was a survival mechanism.
It's the difference between a legacy company that promotes the founder's nephew,
who runs it into the ground.
Right, versus a meritocracy that elevates the brilliant junior employee. The Mongols were basically the ultimate merit-based startup.
And that connects back to the functional hierarchy of the Indus Valley. If status is tied to contribution, you must promote the top contributors.
Once status and function decouple, institutional rot sets in. Okay, so meritocracy puts the right people in charge. But how does the rest of the massive workforce know exactly where they fit?
This is where we get into architecture as the anchor of order.
I found this part so interesting, the physical representation of hierarchy. The ziggurats, the pyramids.
We're taught to view them just as monuments to tyranny, right? Intimidation tactics.
Yeah, giant ancient ego trips.
But the blueprint suggests a deeper function. orientation. The human brain maps social relationships spatially.
So they provided a cosmic place.
Exactly. If you're a laborer building a pyramid, you look up and you know exactly where you fit in the grand scheme.
The hierarchy is visible and unquestionable. It reduces the cognitive load.
It removes the chaos of not knowing your purpose.
And the text draws this incredible parallel. The ancients used physical stones to provide clarity. We try to use job descriptions.
And modern job descriptions are terrible at this. The source says lack of clear role definition is a leading cause of stress.
Because modern onboarding is just a 4-page digital document full of jargon.
Synergize cross-functional paradigms.
Exactly. You have no cosmic place. You don't know what stone you're placing. So think about your own job right now.
Do you actually know where you fit?
Do you have that cosmic place? Or are your job duties just a blurry, stressful mess? Because if it's a blurry mess, you're suffering from a lack of architectural order.
And the consequence is profound inefficiency. You spend more energy trying to figure out what you should be doing than actually doing it.
Stepping on toes, duplicating work. It's a nightmare. Okay, let's push this further.
Sure.
Architecture, job descriptions, those are just containers. What actually fills them with meaning?
What motivates someone to haul limestone for 10 hours a day?
Or write code for 10 hours a day.
Right. This is the most powerful tool in the blueprint. The shared narrative. The myth.
Religious texts, foundation myths.
Exactly. Everyone, from the king to the farmer, believed they were part of a single divine mission.
It wasn't a job for a paycheck. It was a cosmic duty.
And mechanically, shared emotional narratives make hierarchy acceptable.
Because it serves a higher purpose.
Right. You'll take orders and endure hardship if you believe in the why. Without the why, the blueprint is just a cold, oppressive machine.
Which exposes exactly why we all roll our eyes at corporate mission statements today.
Oh, absolutely.
Companies try to manufacture purpose with buzzwords that literally no one believes in.
Delivering paradigm-shifting value to stakeholders.
Nobody's sacrificing their health for paradigm-shifting value.
Yeah. You can't replace a shared emotional myth with PR speak. And as a result, modern workers operate in a severe narrative deficit.
They realize they're just generating wealth for executives they'll never meet.
The ancients understood a hierarchy without a unifying myth is basically enslavement. The myth animated the structure.
Okay, so if everyone is working under this shared myth, what happens to the hyper-ambitious people?
The outliers, the disruptors.
Yeah, the top 1% who want to conquer and climb to the top. How did the ancestral blueprint manage them without tearing the society apart?
Well, this raises an important question about organizational design, because the ancients were very pragmatic. They didn't crush ambition, they vectored it outward.
They provided clear, outward-facing avenues for advancement.
Exactly. Military conquest, the priesthood, massive trade exploration.
They pointed the weapons outward so they wouldn't turn inward.
Yes. By directing that aggressive energy outward, they protected the internal core, the farmers, the families, from vicious power struggles.
But modern corporate structures do the exact opposite.
We really do. We force all our most ambitious people to stay inside the building.
We trap them. We lock all our gladiators in the office together, give them one VP slot to fight over, and wonder why the culture gets toxic.
It's a cage match. We're engineering the chaos the ancients actively tried to prevent.
It's organizational cannibalism. They spend all their energy sabotaging peers instead of expanding the pie outward.
The ancient blueprint exported outliers to protect the center. We destroy our center by making it a battleground.
That is a crazy shift in perspective. And by managing that ambition outward, they bought themselves the ultimate luxury: time. Stability.
The slow hierarchy.
Not the pacing. Hierarchies moved at the speed of generations, not fiscal quarters.
Stability was prioritized over disruption. And the source notes this allowed civilizations to last for 1,000 years.
But wait, a tech founder in 2026 would call a 1,000-year plan completely uninnovative.
It sounds stagnant to us.
In a world of AI, if we don't pivot constantly, we die. How can we justify a slow hierarchy?
By distinguishing between the speed of product innovation and the speed of human organizational structure.
Oh, what we make versus how we organize to make it.
Exactly. You must innovate products quickly, but you don't need to constantly reorg the human beings making those products.
So constant restructuring isn't an innovation strategy.
No, it's a trauma response by panicked leadership. The text suggests a stable human foundation actually enables faster product innovation.
Because employees aren't wasting cognitive load worrying about the next sudden departmental reorg.
Or trying to figure out who their new boss is. Constant reorgs shatter psychological safety. The ancients knew humans need a stable ground to stand on to reach for the stars.
We keep pulling the rug out and demanding they build rockets. Wow. Okay, let's bring all this together. The synthesis.
Reclaiming the blueprint. The article has this amazing comparison matrix.
Let's walk through it. Ancient ancestral order versus modern bureaucratic model. Foundation.
Ancient is mutual obligation and duty. Aminoini. Modern is purely contractual and financial.
Conflict handling.
Ancient is ritualized release, like Saturnalia. Modern is performance reviews and HR.
Which just adds pressure. Status source.
Ancient is contribution to the collective, utility. Modern is title and seniority.
And finally, decision style.
Ancient is council consensus, moderated power. Modern is top-down command.
So the ultimate thesis is that ancient societies treated organizations as living, breathing organisms.
Balancing power with responsibility, ambition with ritual, status with service.
And modern society treats people merely as resources, interchangeable cogs for financial extraction.
It's a stark contrast.
It is. But it's empowering because it means we aren't inherently doomed. The blueprint for stability already exists. So to bring it back to you, the listener, as we integrate more AI, true innovation requires looking backward. We don't need more dashboards. We need clarity, reciprocity, and shared purpose.
And that leads to a final, really provocative thought building on the source material.
Oh, let's hear it.
We know modern software and AI are currently being used to enforce the bureaucratic model, right? Tracking and extracting.
Right. But what happens when we inevitably train an AI on the Ancestral Order Blueprint instead of MBA textbooks?
Oh, wow. That flips the whole paradigm.
Will the AI of the future look at a failing company and tell the CEO to stop performance reviews because they're structurally destructive?
Mandate a modern Saturnalia.
Exactly. Logically determining that forcing executives to serve the interns is the most mathematically efficient way to restore Ayni and save the company.
I absolutely love that. The idea of an emotionless AI forcing a CEO to host a festival for the interns to save the stock price.
It's a wild thought.
I am leaving you with that incredible image to mull over today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you a completely new lens on how human beings organize themselves. Best of luck building your own pyramids with purpose. And remember, before you buy another app, make sure your house isn't crumbling from the inside. We'll catch you next time.